Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the Online Series 12 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we're trying out a team that's had some tremendous success in real-life tournaments recently. This team was used by Izzy Lee to get top 8 at the Vancouver Regional Championships, and Sohaib Mufti, who finished in the top 16 of the North American International Championships. They built this team together and put out a team report for this on Victory Road recently, and I think it's just one of the most consistent teams like I have really tried out on Road to Ranked in the recent weeks. It's a little bit more standard in terms of Pokemon, but it is just incredibly powerful, and it's really well built. Like every single move and EV spread exists for a reason. And so there's actually an awesome team report for this on Victory Road. I've linked it down in the description below. Huge thank you to Izzy and Sohaib for the team. As always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps linked in the description below. And thank you so much as always for watching. If you enjoy, please share support by leaving a like. I'd really appreciate it. So, this team is Kyogre and Zacian, right? Like, this is a pretty standard composition. One of the most common Kyogre Zacian teams leading up to the recent weeks was Zapdos over Amoonguss. But in terms of Pokemon composition, there isn't anything too crazy here, right? But it's all about kind of how this team is designed and what makes it a little bit different from other Kyogre Zacian teams. So even though the Pokemon on this team are relatively standard, there are a couple of small intricacies that I think really make it different from some of the other Zacian Kyogre teams that you might be used to seeing. So first of all, as always, as I mentioned, now I want to try to incorporate pastes more often into the breakdowns, so you can see the actual EV spreads. The first thing that you'll notice when you're looking at these 6 Pokemon is that there's only one clear Dynamax option. That's Kyogre. And this is because it is Life Orb Kyogre. This thing is really meant to just get big one-hit knockouts with its max moves. You can, get a one-hit knockout onto opposing Kyogres without Assault Vest with Max Lightning. You can get one-hit KOs onto things like Groudon, even in Sun, and Zacian in Rain, with your Life Orb Max Geyser coming from Water Spout. And so the general idea here is that you just have an incredibly strong sweeper in Dynamax Kyogre. Rillaboom here actually can max as well, right? It can work in the right scenario. For example, Shedinja could actually be kind of annoying, and so you could max against that with the Gigantamax form, right? But overall, Kyogre is going to be the primary max option in almost all of your games, right? And so it's all about enabling Kyogre. How do you support it properly? Well, first of all, Light Clay, Grimmsnarl, super good for it. You just set up both screens, and the Kyogre here, as you'll notice, actually has 92 speed EVs, so it's not as fast as, the timid max speed Kyogres that you might be used to seeing. As a result, the idea is, okay, well, Kyogre can, maybe take some damage, but the thing is, I don't care about moving second because I'll still be able to soak up the damage you do to me via screens and then just retaliate back with a one-hit knockout through the max moves. As you'll see here, the Zacian on the team is actually Admin and Max Attack. It's funny because I think actually, despite that being kind of a pretty maybe intuitive way to run Zacian, a lot of players actually like either like Jolly, for example, or Admin, but then have a lot of bulk, and as a result, like you don't have max attack. This basically just catches opponents off guard because I think few people actually calc for Admin to max attack Zacian, and they're super used to like Jolly, right? And so the extra damage output you get just by switching to Admin can actually go a super long way, right? And so, like, it's obviously about enabling Kyogre and Zacian for success. Grimmsnarl is here to set up screens. You've got Safety Goggles and Incineroar here, and so this is used really to counter opposing Venusaurs. Venusaur otherwise can be a huge pain, especially with Sleep Powder spam, and so that actually can be a Dynamax option when you're going up against Venusaur Groudon, depending on the scenario. To round out the team, you've got Assault Vest, Gigantamax Rillaboom here. It notably does have U-turn, and so this allows you to cycle in and out a little bit easier and take advantage of those fake outs. And the final component of this team is actually the min speed Amoonguss with Focus Sash and Foul Play. Now, Amoonguss is really valuable, especially into some of the Trick Room compositions that have popped up recently. Porygon 2, I feel like, has seen a lot more usage, especially ever since like the Porygon 2 Reshiram Calyrex Ice composition kind of came to play, right? So the idea behind Amoonguss is, okay, against Trick Room comps, you can actually outspeed most Pokemon under Trick Room, right? A lot of Trick Room teams at the moment revolve around things like Lunala setting up Trick Room for Groudon, or Calyrex Ice Rider taking advantage of Trick Room, but Amoonguss can actually outspeed those Pokemon and just put them to sleep, right? So it says, okay, if you want to set up Trick Room against me, well, I've got this thing that can just shut down your entire team. Foul Play here is actually the attack of choice because it actually does pretty significant damage to things like Calyrex Shadow Rider, Lunala, and Groudon, for example, and of course Calyrex Ice Rider, right? Especially if Calyrex Ice Rider already has a weakness policy activated, you can do even more damage with Foul Play. And so, yeah, You know, the moves here aren't really anything out of the ordinary, but in general, it's just super consistent. In terms of ways that you want to play with the team, right, you could very easily lead Grimmsnarl with Zacian, Kyogre, or Incineroar, and all of those I think are really strong leads. Really depends on what your opponent's trying to do, but, you know, using Grimmsnarl to get up early screens, especially if they don't have a way to just KO Grimmsnarl immediately. You know, the things to watch out for if you're using Grimmsnarl are either like an opposing Fake Out plus something that can one-shot Grimmsnarl, like Zacian, or something like Dynamax Regieleki, which can just max Lightning you to get a one-hit knockout, right? So, ideally, when you're using Grimmsnarl, you get both screens up and then get Kyogre out afterwards and just, you know, try to pick up big one-hit KOs. Rillaboom's going to be really important, especially against Gastrodon, because Gastrodon's one of the Pokemon that can just completely invalidate this Kyogre. That being said, actually, Max Hailstorm from this Kyogre does like 60+% to Gastrodon, so keep that in mind as a way to actually deal with it damage-wise, but obviously when you see a Gastrodon team preview, you can't max Kyogre with as much ease. The other thing I'll warn you about here is that Kyogre, as you can see, is running Water Spell, Ice Beam, Thunder, and Protect, and that's really strong as a Dynamax option, but it means that Kyogre post Dynamax often won't actually have that much HP, thus making it more difficult to get good value out of Water Spout, right? And so Water Spout's used to have the strongest max move here, but unlike other Kyogres where you might be used to bringing it just, you know, for Origin Pulses and really strong water type damage in regular form, this Kyogre is more about getting those big base 150 max geysers off and picking up, you know, big knockouts left and right. And so, yeah, overall here, I think that this is just one of the most consistent teams I've tried out, as I mentioned, and it has all the tools to really allow you to succeed. And I think the coolest thing is that Izzy, you know, who had sent me in this team, she got top 8 at Vancouver Regionals, and that was her second regional championship ever, and she beat, you know, some of the best players in the world and in this season throughout her run there. And so, yeah, really encourage you to check out some of her, you know, battles from that tournament, as well as the team report down in the description below. And let's get started. Oh, wow. Okay. This team has Lugia, Zacian, Togedemaru, Landorus-T, Torkoal, and Tornadus. That's awesome. I definitely expect a weakness policy set up here on the Lugia. So how do we actually deal with Lugia? Like, Tornadus plus Lugia is pretty scary. Brutal Swing. You can just Brutal Swing, activate policy. Like, what I'd want to do is maybe go with Grimamungus and like try to pressure with Spore turn 1. But I don't think that's really that effective. I guess Incineroar Grimmsnarl could work, where I could just Fake Out plus Light Screen turn 1. Max Kyogre is okay here. I mean, it's very powerful, especially with Max Hailstorm and Max Lightning. But it's like, do I really bring Incineroar just for Fake Out on turn 1? I don't think that's actually worth it. So, I'm down for Grimmsnarl as a lead. Grimmsnarl, Kyogre. Amoonguss is just interesting because we have the Focus Sash here. But if I were them, I would just double up onto Amoonguss turn 1 with like an Airstream combo. So, Grim, Kyogre, Zacian, and then who do I want as the last one? Incen's pretty good against their Zacian. Could also bring Amoonguss. Yeah, Incen's safe here. Amoonguss is actually interesting because it has the Focus Sash, and so like you could take a, you know, Max Airstream. I think Lugia is actually really cool here. So I'm excited to fight against it. I think it can do a lot of interesting things in this position. So the goal was at least to get, you know, screens up with Grimmsnarl. That severely reduces Lugia's damage output. They're going to go Togedemaru and Lugia. Okay, so, you know, slightly stronger against Kyogre here, but I'm okay with that. You do have Fake Out here with Togedemaru, so you could Fake Out into the Grimmsnarl immediately. What do I want to do here? Like, do I actually want to Dynamax Kyogre immediately? Because I could pivot out it. They could just go for, I don't know, Self-Volt Switch or Self-Electric type attack and activating policy. I'm okay clicking Light Screen for now. But I'm almost, like, thinking about playing defensively with Kyogre here, baiting out their max and just letting them hit Kyogre here. Somewhat tempting, honestly. They could just Max Quake here. I think I should probably just go on the offensive. I'll just go for Geyser here onto Lugia. Get some sense of how much damage it'll do. Okay, they're going to Dynamax here. The other thing is, if I don't Dynamax, there is a small chance it's like a Calm Mind Lugia, and if I give them the free opportunity to Calm Mind, that's also not ideal, so I'd rather just force them to Dynamax here. It could also be a bait and, like, I don't know, be a Life Orb Lugia instead of Weakness Policy, which would seem kind of counterintuitive, but you never know. This is best of one. A lot of surprises. I think, like, one of the reasons you'd actually want to use Lugia is because it has a decent matchup into Zacian Kyogre, where, like, you can take attacks pretty well, and, you know, you can pressure Zacian with, like, a max Quake for a potential one-hit knockout. So, we'll see. Kyogre's going to max here. Okay, they're not going to go for Fake Out, which I'm pretty happy about. Could be like a Zing Zap, which would be scary, or just an Iron Head. Yeah, it's going to be Iron Head. Okay, that's okay with me. We do survive, but I wouldn't be surprised if they doubled up onto that slot. There's Max Airstream. Yeah. Okay. Nice play by them on turn 1. I'm still okay with that outcome. I don't think it's that bad. The speed boost is a little bit scary because now you can definitely outspeed the Zacian. But the only other play I could have made there was, I don't know, clicking Reflect instead. And I don't know if I'm really keen on that. Okay, decent damage with Geyser there. Breaks multi-scale. Now we can go out into Incineroar. Now, the thing with Incineroar here is I expect Zacian to just go for a Max Quake onto the Incin slot. Thus giving them a special defense boost. But Togedemaru doesn't really scare me very much. They could actually like self-activate Policy though, and then go for the defense boost. So one play I can make here is just Fake Out Togedemaru. The other play I can make is actually just double up onto Lugia immediately. Or the third is to Fake Out Geyser Togedemaru and get that out of the way. I'm just worried then Tornadus comes out to replace it. I'm tempted to just try to get the knockout onto Lugia right now because it would give us such a big advantage, especially because Togedemaru doesn't provide much offense from my opponent. Nice, and they protect. Protect and over Spiky Shield is interesting, but okay, perfect. Oh. That is Max Geyser. That does not even KO Incineroar through Light Screen. Okay, that was a roller coaster of emotions. What? Well, we'll get Max Geyser now in the rain. Doesn't KO Lugia, but that's where the double up helps out. Perfect. Max Quake actually may have allowed them to just survive this turn. But yeah, that turn played out even better than expected. Like, I figured the obvious play for me to make there is the Fake Out into Togedemaru, so I figured my opponent would try to read into it. But that turn could have gone pretty poorly if they just had, like, self-volt switch into activating Policy, and then Lugia just, like, Max Quakes into it. And I actually probably lose from that angle. So, yeah, this was actually super scary. Now we should be in pretty good shape. Zacian comes out for my opponent. We know Togedemaru just protected. I could pivot Incineroar out into Zacian, but I'm not sure I actually want to take a Sacred Sword here. And, like, Togedemaru shouldn't KO Incin, so I'm actually down a Parting Shot into Togedemaru and then Geyser into the Zacian. The logic here is, like, I think Zacian might consider going for Protect. They're actually just going to Volt Switch and not Protect. This is dangerous if Torkoal comes in, though, I suppose. But then if Torkoal comes in, the end game's what? Kyogre plus Zacian, most likely, against their Zacian and Torkoal. It's actually Tornadus. Okay, with that, we should get the one-hit knockout onto their Zacian. Yeah, they have Wild Charge, but it's not enough to KO me, fortunately. But that's still a lot of damage. So much about this team is just playing around Dynamax Kyogre, right? It is by far your strongest offensive option, and you're going to max it in almost all of your games. And so it's all about, like, putting Kyogre in a position to succeed here. So we'll get another knockout and a Parting Shot, and now their late game damage against Zacian should be super subpar. Like, Togedemaru has, what, Iron Head, Volt Switch, Protect. That's what we've seen so far. Yeah, so we can bring out Zacian. Now Tornadus is at -1, so your, Hurricanes also do less damage, and I can pivot Incineroar back in for another Fake Out. I think one thing, as you can see here, though, is that because Kyogre doesn't have Origin Pulse, like, post-Dynamax, you actually don't really have a super strong, like, Water-type attack, right? If you've already taken a lot of damage, because your only option is Water Spout. And so that's one thing you have to be very careful about when you're using this team, is, like, making sure you're in a position where the Kyogre can actually, like, either do so much that it doesn't need to rely on Water-type attacks in the end game, or not take too much damage in your couple turns of Dynamax, right? So, here I'm willing to just Protect, and actually, I think a double Protect here is acceptable. Scout out for what they want to go for, and then next turn I can pivot Kyogre out into Incineroar. They actually just end up forfeiting. So, that's one of the downsides of, like, using support like Togedemaru. it's like you just can't do very much damage against a lot of Pokemon in the format, right? Like super good in enabling the Lugia, but otherwise you can really fall short. And if you look at my opponent's composition there, like a lot of the damage came from Lugia and Zacian, right? Especially against my Zacian and Kyogre. And Togedemaru actually can be okay if you have like a physical electric type attack into the Kyogre. But yeah, since we had Intimidate in the back, we already had Light Screen up as well and got Tornadus down to -1. I think we were obviously in a super good position there. And Life Orb Kyogre really just demonstrated its worth in this one, right? Doing so much damage to the Dynamax Lugia. Getting the double up onto Lugia obviously helped out. And then be able to just get a one-hit knockout onto Zacian was also incredibly valuable there. So yeah, a really cool team for my opponent though, and I think Lugia is actually very scary here because like it invalidates a lot of Pokemon. Like I can't really bring Rillaboom into the matchup. Incineroar doesn't contribute that much against it. Amoonguss is obviously like a tough pick into it as well. And so I felt forced more or less to go with the 4 Pokemon I had. I think in a best of 3, you can make an argument for Rillaboom, especially because Focus Sash is like a hidden item here. If they don't expect the Sash and you get a Spore off onto Lugia, it can give you a huge advantage. But yeah, let's keep things going. Our next game here, and it is a Kyurem-Zacian team with Clefairy, Indeedee, Porygon, and Gastrodon. That is really interesting. I think Amoonguss is going to be critical here, especially with Focus Sash, and if they want to play towards Trick Room. Boy, this is a tricky one, because I think all of our Pokemon are, like, somewhat decent. Zacian's incredible offensively, but, you know, they could go with, like, Redirection plus Kyurem. Something like Clef Kyurem or Indeedee plus Kyurem to cause me some issues early on. To which I could, you know, set up screens with Grimmsnarl. If I were them, I'd actually just go Kyurem, Indeedee, Zacian, and Gastrodon, personally. So, even if I know that's coming my way, how can I actually stop it? Oh boy, it's not easy. It's about weathering the early storm. So, like, Grim, Kyogre, Zacian. I don't think we bring Incin here. It's good against their Zacian, but that's basically it. It would be Rillaboom or Amoonguss. Now, if they do actually go towards Trick Room, it would be a major loss to not bring Amoonguss here. But we don't have a grass type attack, as you can see, so I'm actually going to struggle a little bit against the Gastrodon. Yeah, I'm going to bring Rillaboom here instead. I mean, Amoonguss is tempting, but, like, there are a couple of things to watch out for here. Like, Kyurem White, Max Hailstorm can just KO me after Focus Sash. Kyurem plus Indeedee is a really tough combo to go up against here. I just don't feel like it's super consistent, in my opinion. Whereas Rillaboom gives me a more definitive answer in a Gastrodon, which is, you know, by far the biggest kind of counter to the Kyogre that I have. So, yeah, it's Kyurem plus Indeedee. That's the lead I was talking about. Now, turn 1 is pretty interesting already. Like, if you're my opponent, you could just obviously go for, like, a Helping Hand plus a Max Hailstorm on a Grimmsnarl. I could pretty easily click Light Screen with the Grimm right now, but, like, I almost want to not Dynamax Kyogre here, because I don't think we really need to. Like, Light Screen is definitely fine. I honestly lean towards just Light Screen plus Protect. They could just Helping Hand plus Hailstorm Grimmsnarl, though, and if they do that, things get really interesting. I guess the question is whether or not that even one-shots us, though. So, the thing about Kyurem is that they're going to Dynamax here most of the time, but I could actually see them, like, not maxing here, because you might feel safe against, like, this duel, where you could actually, like, follow me and, I don't know, Freeze Dry into Kyogre, but I would be kind of surprised to not see a max. They're just going to switch out probably into Gastrodon? Yep. Okay, that's fine. Oh, they actually chose not to max. So what I said was true. Cool. I always like it when I talk about something that's kind of obscure, but then my opponents actually do the obscure thing, which is really neat. That's a cool option. Okay, so we get Light Screen up, which is super good. Max Hailstorm's a 2-hit knockout onto the Gastrodon right now. And I've got Spirit Break pressure onto Kyurem. So I'm down to just Spirit Break Kyurem here. The thing is, it's like, I mean, what's Gastrodon going to go for here? Yawn, most likely? They could Freeze Dry again. They could Max Quake into this slot. Also, low-key, Rillaboom, I was going to say could be a max option. I don't like it much here, though. Spirit Break. Max. Hailstorm into Gastrodon, I guess. I'm trying to think long-term about my endgame because they're going to have Zacian in the back, right? And so their Zacian's going to be a pretty big threat. This turn, I really thought about switching Kyogre out. You know what? I think Kyogre out into Rillaboom works here. Because they're not going to go for a max Hailstorm onto the Kyogre slot. And if they go for Freeze Dry, I've already got Light Screen up and I have the Assault Vest. They're not even maxing Kyurem. Okay, they go for Protect. That makes sense. Fine by me. I get a big Hailstorm off into Gastrodon. I wish I kind of doubled up on a Gastro now, but that's fine. Next turn I can max Lightning should they go for a Snarl here. But yeah, Spirit Break plus Hail actually probably would have just KO'd the Gastrodon here, so I feel kind of bad not doubling up onto it now. Really smart for my opponent to not just, like, you know, go for Dynamax too early with Kyurem. I think that's going to save them a lot in this game. It's actually just Ice Beam. Okay, I'll take that. Into Grimmsnarl for very minimal damage. Now with the Kyurem, you know that I've got Spirit Break and I want to go for it onto that slot. So Kyurem could look towards switching out. You could go into Zacian and protect Gastrodon. That's actually a pretty powerful play. I'm down for Reflect. Ah, man, they did such a good job conserving their Dynamax. Like, it's really well done. Yeah, if I were them, I would protect Gastrodon and switch Kyurem out into Zacian. I don't really have too much good counterplay to that. I'm thinking Reflect and Lightning here. I guess they could stay in with Kyurem and Dynamax here, but that wouldn't actually be the end of the world. I don't really care about what Gastrodon has to offer right now. Because once Lightning terrain is up, it's like, or sorry, Electric terrain is up, like Ice Beam, Earth Power, Yawn, none of those really do much to the Kyogre. They could just stay in with Kyurem and Max here. It's actually Gastro switching out, okay. Zacian replaces that slot, okay. Maybe Kyurem maxes here then? Yeah, not going for Spirit Break onto the Gastro there is actually going to cost me a pretty significant amount, unfortunately. And this switch also makes a lot of sense. So, expecting to go the other way around, but unfortunately that did not work out. But the thing that's interesting is the next turn... Well, first of all, I can bring Zacian out. That in itself is just incredible against their Kyurem. This is the awkward thing about using Kyurem, just in general. So I actually think we're still in okay shape. They're actually going to go for Quake. I don't think that KOs us. And actually, this is where changing the terrain is super interesting, because now I can go for Thunder Wave. And that's pretty darn valuable to both of my opponent's Pokemon right now. Okay, so Lightning doesn't do too much, but that's okay. Change the terrain. It's the last turn of Dynamax on my end. We know they have Gastro in the back that's relatively low HP, so Zacian could just pivot back out into Gastrodon right now, but they also have a special defense boost on Zacian. Now, if I were my opponent's shoes, I would not want to get paralyzed by Grimmsnarl, so I'd probably just protect the Zacian and then, like, Quake or Hailstorm into Grimmsnarl. I'm not even sure Hailstorm KOs, honestly. So I could switch into Zacian, but then the problem is if they outspeed me. The other thing I could go for is actually just Thunder Wave into the Kyurem slot instead, predicting Zacian to protect. Zacian could also switch out here. I mean, I'd love to paralyze the Zacian here. Paralyzing Kyurem doesn't actually really contribute much, so... Okay. I think here... I'm actually down to T-Wave and Geyser. Yes, they might protect or switch out, but if I get this into Zacian, it gives me such a huge advantage that it'll actually be pretty difficult for my opponent to come back from. But the thing is, even if in the worst case, which is them just pivoting out into Gastrodon, it's not that bad, and they don't protect amazing or switch out. This is exactly why I went for this. Because they might be lulled into like a false sense of security here with Zacian right now, but being able to paralyze that is such a big deal because now it gives my Zacian full command in this endgame, right? So Hailstorm will get the knockout onto Grimm there, but that's fine. You know, we already have both screens set up at the moment. Geyser's not going to KO thanks to the special defense boost that they had and the lack of rain, but this will still do a ton of damage. Oh my gosh. That actually is still almost KO'd. Wow. Okay, and now obviously they have to attack through paralysis as well. If they get parried here, they are done for, I think. But no para. It's just going to be Sacred Sword, making me think maybe they don't have Play Rough. I think we're just going to Zacian here. So, the main thing that makes Kyurem so scary is the Indeedee, like, having follow me support, right? So if you're my opponent right now, what you should do is just protect the Kyurem and sacrifice the Zacian so that you get a free switch in back out into Indeedee. So an interesting play for me to make is actually double protect and not pick up a knockout. They could also just hard switch Zacian out into Indeedee. That's the other possibility, I suppose. But I'm willing to double protect here because if they don't make the decision to switch out Zacian, they kind of lose immediately. And even if they make the switch, it's still okay. But they stay in perfect. Yeah, like, basically what we're trying to do here is bait out a protect from their end on Kyurem. There it is. Wonderful. And this is why I think Kyurem is one of the tougher restricteds to use in the format, because you have to position it so meticulously around opposing Zacians. Ooh! I don't think that saves them, though, because I have Play Rough. I wonder if Sacred Sword even just KOs Kyurem, but I'd rather go for Play Rough here. Oh, I can't Sacred Sword anyway. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. But either way, we're going to Play Rough here, and we're going to Thunder. If we hit Play Rough, we should be good. That's really cool, though. This is what I mean, though, right? Like, is how I was talking about with Kyurem, you need to have, like, really good counter play against opposing Zacian. Imprison is a really, really nice answer here. So that's really cool. But given that we still have Light Screen up here and we have Play Rough, I still feel really good about our position. If we hit Play Rough here, it should just be game over. So really hoping not to miss. That's okay as long as I don't get crit here. Yeah, we didn't even take half there. That is really frustrating because it's a 90% chance to essentially seal up the game right there, but that's okay. I will go for another Play Rough now. The thing is, now their play is to protect Kyurem and sacrifice Zacian to get the free switch into Indeedee. I'm honestly not sure Life Orb Ice Beam KOs. So I'm just going to go for Thunder. Maybe Zacian pivots out into Gastrodon, but then I can just Ice Beam Gastrodon and then play Rough the Kyurem. And if we lose this game ultimately because I missed the Play Rough, like, so be it. I'm actually pretty pleased about how I played it, but I think my opponent played the early game really nicely as well. So you're going to miss Play Rough, right? Yeah, it's just the downsides, unfortunately, of using a move that has not the best accuracy. I mean, 90% always stings the most because you feel like you're that close, right? Zacian's going to pivot out into Gastrodon. Now, the Gastro pivot, honestly, is fine. I guess the thing is Ice Beam might not KO, which is the scary thing. Yeah, that is actually a little bit scary. I'm not sure it gets the knockout, actually. I could have gone for Ice Beam there. Ice Beam was actually probably the right play, just because it's like Zacian doesn't really threaten me that much anyway. So this turn is interesting, because like you actually probably expect the Kyurem to pivot out into Indeedee or Zacian, and then like Gastrodon could protect. So what I could do is just protect my Zacian. It's the last turn of Light Screen, so I also have to be careful about that. I could protect, but the thing is, I took that Earth Power earlier. Right? Oh, it's literally a damage roll, though. Like, if they just get a slightly higher roll, I'd lose the Zacian. Okay. I think I'm okay just going for Protect and Ice Beam here. Yep, they switch. That's fine. Into Zacian. Yep, that's totally okay with me. Okay. Cool. I'm just worried about my late game against Kyurem now, because I essentially have to knock out Indeedee before I can KO Kyurem. That's why, like, missing the opportunity, or just missing the Play Rough there was super rough. No pun intended. Good Protect from Gastro as well. But that's okay, because now I can Play Rough the Gastrodon slot and Thunder into Zacian, right? Oh, rain stops. I actually probably want to click Water Spout instead. Yeah. I don't know if a +1 Sacred Sword KOs Gastrodon from that range, so I think I'd rather go for Play Rough here. I also think I could have maneuvered this endgame a little bit better. But we're going to Play Rough Water Spout. Yeah, the problem is beating Indeedee plus Kyurem now. I do have AV Rillaboom in the back, and I can cycle that in for Fake Out, but I essentially need to knock out Indeedee first, then save Zacian to beat Kyurem. But once again, it's like, if we just have hit the Play Rough earlier, this game already was over. Okay, they get the double protect off with Gastrodon, but truthfully, I actually don't think that improves their position because what my opponent should angle for right now is Indeedee plus Kyurem now next to each other. By going for this, you do get a free switch in, but I guess you could go out into Indeedee then. But if you go into Indeedee, then I just go out into Rillaboom, and we're actually in pretty good shape. So, okay. It's also frustrating to see a double there because that would have obviously just been a free knockout and then would have been 3v2 in a position where I think it's also manageable. So, we haven't had the best rolls this game, but I think we're still in okay shape. Yeah, Indeedee is coming out. So, with this now, I think it's very clear we pivot out into Rillaboom. Assault Vest Rillaboom's super good in this current position. And what we're angling for is essentially just one KO, right? So we bring out Rillaboom, and I'm actually just going to Ice Beam into the Indeedee slot, because if Indeedee faints, Kyurem wins this endgame. Or sorry, Zacian wins this endgame against Kyurem. Imprison was really cool, though. Like, the turn that they went for Imprison, I actually could have just clicked Thunder with the Kyogre, but like I said, I didn't want to knock out Zacian and then give them a free switch into Indeedee, right? Yeah, so... Rillaboom's gonna come out now. I'm ultimately like, yeah, I feel like I brought the right Pokemon here, right? It's not like Incineroar or Mungus really would have contributed too much against the board state. Okay, they go for Follow Me, perfect. That's totally good. Get an Ice Beam off, brilliant. That is really good damage, wow. And they have Recover. Okay, so... Gastro actually has Recover, which probably means it doesn't have Yawn. Otherwise, I think it would have gone for Yawn earlier. But I don't really care about Recover when I have Rillaboom in this game with Assault Vest. This next turn is really interesting now. If I were them, I would pivot Gastrodon out into the... I pivot Gastrodon out into Kyurem, probably. I guess you could just switch Indeedee out here as well and protect Gastrodon. That also works, actually. Okay, I'm gonna Glot. This Recover also makes things a lot scarier. I'm gonna double up onto Indeedee. Indeedee might protect here as Gastro switches out. Yeah. We'll see if they go for the protect. See. If they don't protect here, we're in super good shape. But they do. I thought really hard about doubling up on a Gastrodon, but I thought they could have switched out the other way. So basically the thing is, this next turn I have a free knockout onto the Indeedee slot, right? They either stay in and feint to the Grassy Glider, or they pivot out into Gastrodon. I can definitely take a Freeze Dry from Kyurem at the moment. So the right play for my opponent right now is to switch out the Indeedee slot and sacrifice it. And sacrifice the Gastrodon, sorry. That's what I mean to say. So I can go for Glide. Get the knockout onto that. I want to Glide and switch into Zacian here, I think. Because then I can protect Zacian, pivot Rillaboom back out. I guess I could also just stay in with Indeedee here. This is a little bit risky because I guess I could Earth Power the Kyogre slot, but I think that's relatively unlikely. I expect Indeedee to pivot out here into Gastrodon. I had to play this in such a different way after the play rough miss. Yeah, they're going to switch. The thing is, last turn I could have read into Kyurem switching out, but like, what do I get out of it, right? Like, high horsepower plus Ice Beam is basically it. So we'll get the one knockout, one hit KO onto the Gastrodon here. Now I've gotten Zacian out. They're going to change the terrain, but I can re-change the terrain by pivoting out. Oh, it's Fusion Flare. Does that one-shot us? Okay, no. Fusion Flare is cool, though, because it would cover for, yeah, Zacian coming in as well. Interesting. Okay. The other question is, like, do I think I can win a 2v1 with Rillaboom and Kyogre against the Kyurem? Probably not. I could have if I had gotten the Kyurem switch in earlier correctly and, like, doubled up onto the switch in, I think. Okay, Okay, so like Rillaboom pivoting out into Kyogre here, super duper obvious. They're probably just gonna freeze dry. What is the item on this? That's my other question, because it's not Life Orb. Go out into Kyogre. I could just Behemoth Blade here, but then I would lose Zacian, and then it's Rillaboom Kyogre against Kyurem. I don't think I win that. Okay, Kyogre and Protect. The idea here is if you KO Kyogre, Indeedee comes, or Rillaboom comes back out for free, and then I can just try to KO the Indeedee with Grassy Glide. I just don't know the spread on Indeedee here and whether or not Glide gets the knockout. If we had Sub on Zacian, that'd also be such a nice tool right now, but alas, we don't. So there's Protect. Timer is also really low. Oh, they actually protected the Indeedee. That's interesting. Okay. Freeze Dry into Kyogre is fine. Does that KO us? Okay, good. Oh, wait, hold on. With that, because you just protected Indeedee now, they actually gave me a... It's not a guaranteed win. They could get a double protect off with Indeedee, but if that's the case, then in the end I lost to what? Play Rough Miss and 2 double protects? Like, I'll take it. Because by protecting there, now I can just fake out Kyurem and Behemoth Blade into Indeedee. So, they need to go for a double protect here. That's what it boils down to. Fake out and just Behemoth Blade into Indeedee. Yeah, this game did not need to be this complicated, but missing Play Rough unfortunately put us in this position. With Timer running low as well, they could win off Timer. We would actually win the game off Timer if they like tried to draw out the Timer here and then failed the double protect. But basically their win condition right now is getting the double and then winning off time, I think. So if that's what it comes down to, so be it. I am decently pleased about how I played this game, although I think there was still room for improvement. Last turn I could have just obviously attacked with the Zacian slot there, but the idea of sacrificing for free switch into Rillaboom I think is worth it. Okay, so Kyurem gets the protect off. That's fine. Does Indeedee go for the double? They do, but they don't get it. Nice. That should win us the game. So this is why you like can't give up even after some bad rolls, right? Like, yes, we would have just won the game immediately if Play Rough hit, but we still had a pretty good team advantage here given the Zacian positioning. Like, you know, there's no reason to just like give up immediately, right? As demoralizing as a Play Rough miss can be in that position, we were still in decent shape. But this end game was definitely pretty scary, and Kyurem can have it actually has a really solid matchup into a lot of the Pokemon we're using here, right? So it's been a while since I've seen the battle timer actually come out like this, but now we can just Grassy Glide, obviously, and Behemoth Blade, and that should be GG. We actually would have a guaranteed win if we just ran out the timer here, but Behemoth Blade and Glide I think should always get the KO as well. I guess we haven't seen Kyurem's item, but even if you're a Babiri Berry here, I don't think that helps you. Yeah, Glide also just does so much there. The right play was actually to run out the timer there just because it's a guaranteed win, but I figured there was no way Kyurem was ever surviving here anyway, so either way works. But yeah, we're gonna end up winning with 0 seconds left. So yeah, I mean, I wasn't even, you know, thinking about timer in this game. I was just trying to, but like, it was so much about this game was positioning, right? Like, can Indeedee be out next to Kyurem simultaneously? And so, yeah, that was definitely a doozy. But in the end, we're rewarded for the patience. And I think, yeah, they didn't need to protect with Indeedee there. I think a Follow Me plus Freeze Dry there always works. Then I bring out Rillaboom. Then the question is whether or not Grassy Glide would KO Indeedee at around 50%, given the grassy terrain. So then it's a question of the Indeedee's EV spread, and do you have enough HP and defense investment to live Grassy Glide, right? And so that would be the big question. And in that position, I could also angle for going for a double protect and then U-turning into Indeedee. So yeah, we still had win conditions there. But in the end, that was really a doozy. So we'll look for one final game here. Last game here, and it is a very standard Zacian Kyogre team. So this is kind of, you know, the 6 that you would expect to normally go up against, and the team we're using is obviously super similar, but it has a Mungus over Zapdos. Now, the key thing to note is that those Zapdoses nowadays, like, either are Life Orb or Safety Goggles. If they're Goggles, it gives a Mungus a huge amount of trouble. So... I mean, it's Zacian Kyogre, probably. I don't know, like, Amoonguss is actually so good here, but I don't know the Zapdos is set. And so without knowing it, it causes me a lot of trouble. I think, like, yeah, Zapdos gives them a good edge here. Right? Like, that's the key difference between the teams we're using. But if it's Eerie Impulse, like, I can't really get speed control onto it. I would need to knock it out with Zacian with Play Rough, actually. So, I'm going to go Zacian, Kyogre, and then... I think I want Rilla as the fort. I mean, Instant also works, but Rilla's just so much better into their Kyogre. So we'll go with that. So what's our goal here? I think the goal is to eliminate Zapdos, then not Dynamax our Kyogre. But I think Zapdos is going to be the key member of their team here. And they're going to go with Zapdos plus Rillaboom. Okay. This is decent for Zacian so far. The scary thing is I don't know what kind of Zapdos set this is, right? If you're Life Orb plus Heat Wave, you could just fake out Max Flare theoretically on turn 1, and then that's pretty problematic. Or fake out Grimmsnarl and Max Airstream immediately. Zacian, like, protecting here is so obvious that a lot of players are often just going to double up onto Grimmsnarl. So I think I'm down for a Light Screen plus a Behemoth Blade into Rillaboom. The reason I'm willing to go for the target onto Rillaboom is because I think Kyogre can actually still be solid if I eliminate Rillaboom, right? Now, I don't know the Zapdos set. If this is the Safety Goggles Eerie Impulse set, this is actually a really solid start for us, in my opinion, because they don't have, like, a ton of offensive presence right now. So let's see. Rillaboom could fake out here. Yep. They are going to target Zacian, but that's fine. It means I get Light Screen up. Get crit, that's fine. We'll see if it's a Heat Wave or a Thunderbolt. They didn't max, so I'm thinking it's just T-Bolt. Yep. And they split their damage. That looks like Life Orb to me, yeah. Okay, so you actually are Life Orb Zapdos. Normally that's scary, but the thing is, now that I've confirmed your Life Orb, it means, well, actually, I guess you could still be running Eerie Impulse, which is the scary thing. But I'm down to set up a Reflect now, and go for another Behemoth Blade onto Rillaboom. I guess Rillaboom probably switches here, right, into Kyogre. So I could target the Zapdos slot instead with a Play Rough. I don't think that's a terrible option. It's just if we eliminate Rillaboom, then it, like, paves the way for Kyogre to just max in this game. Okay, I'm down to Behemoth Blade Zapdos, because I think it's the clear max option for them right now. Yeah, Rillaboom switches out into Incin. Oh, okay, interesting. So they actually dropped one of their restricteds here. Which is actually really smart, because if you brought both Kyogre and Zacian here, I actually would be in better shape right now, in my opinion. So Zapdos is going to max now, yeah. The thing is, I got Light Screen up, so I don't think you actually one-shot me, but I guess we'll see. Okay. And then now, like, Kyogre is going to be in a fantastic position against both of these, but my Rillaboom now is looking like a really bad choice, because they probably dropped Kyogre for Incin here, and they have Zacian in the back, which I think is very smart on their end. So I get both screens up. I have the Dynamax advantage right now, but I think their Pokemon selection is a lot better than mine at the moment. Still decent damage for -1 Blade, honestly. We'll bring them down to, or I guess Neutral Blade. No static, which is good, and they just Lightning rather than Flare, which we should survive with Light Screen here. Beautiful. Okay, not bad then. We're honestly not in bad shape here at all. This next turn, I can pretty easily just protect the Zacian, or I could switch it out. I could see them, like, doubling up on a Grimmsnarl, but, like, I think it's fine to just protect Zacian here and Spirit Break into Zapdos, honestly. Even if they double up onto my Grimmsnarl, like, I have Light Screen up, right? So you're just not going to KO me with that. Okay, so there's Protect. Fake out into Protect, beautiful. Yeah, and I don't really care who Zapdos targets here. Airstream's a great play, though, actually. It will give you a speed boost. Well, maybe I should care about who you targeted then. Hold on. That will allow them to outspeed Zacian now. I think I have to switch Zacian out next turn. Spirit Break's definitely not going to KO Zapdos. I mean, it's going to do like 5%, yeah. Maybe a little bit more. Static comes up. That's fine. I think we pivot Zacian out into Rillaboom, I guess. It's kind of painful to do that, but I think that's our only real option. I've already gotten both screens up with Grim, and I can't Thunder Wave either Pokemon, so yeah, Spirit Break's the only viable option here. I should have thought a little bit more about Airstream, but it's not like I could really change my play that much there, other than maybe hard switching to Kyogre, but that's a little bit risky if they just Lightning that slot, right? So I don't mind not going for that. By bringing Rillaboom out now, I have Fake Out Pressure next turn into the Zapdos slot. Actually, Max Guard. Oh, okay. Flare Blitz or Parting Shot? Is that into Grim? It goes into Rillaboom, but like, honestly, I don't think... Oh, that's a bad burn. It was fine until the burn came out, I think. Because I think Glide may have just KO'd Zapdos from the range that I was at post Dynamax. I guess it would have been kind of close. Like... That was actually a really nice play. Like, you don't normally expect Zapdos to max there, or max guard, I should say. But I think that was, yeah, that was a really cool play. Okay. Do I think Fake Out plus Spirit Break plus Burnt Glide KOs? Actually, yeah, even without the burn, I don't think we were KOing Zapdos, to be honest. I don't think it actually matters too much. If I were them now, you just attack with Zapdos, and Instant should Parting Shot into the Rillaboom, in my opinion. I haven't Dynamaxed yet, but I've taken a lot of damage across the board. I'm down to Fake Out Spirit Break Zapdos. If they just attack with Incineroar, it gives me a free switch in, which is pretty valuable. Actually, the burn does matter, I suppose, because if I didn't have the burn, then Fake Out would do more damage, right? I guess I get the crit there, so it kind of counteracts it. Okay, they just target Grim, which means a free switch in into Kyogre, which I'll take. Okay. Actually, the burn also prohibits me from maxing Rillaboom now. I'm just really nervous. How many turns of terrain are left? I think they've staggered it perfectly, so it's about to end after this turn, I think, and then they'll be able to reset it, which is kind of problematic. Okay, so now what? It's going to be Rilla and Zacian in the back, I think. I guess it could still be Kyogre. That's also a possibility. They're at -1, I have Light Screen, so I think I do just click Water Spout here. And I'm going to switch out into Zacian here. Because then the Zacian can at least put on Behemoth Blade Pressure into my opponent. So hopefully, like, you know, they T-Bolt Kyogre, or maybe they just try to target the Rillaboom slot. If they Hurricane that and then Zacian comes in, that's the ideal outcome. I don't want to Dynamax here because I do want to pick up a double KO. And even if I take a Thunderbolt, it's okay in this current situation because they're at -1 and we have Light Screen up. Oh, they do have Eerie Impulse. Okay, but that's the other reason why I didn't want to max Kyogre, right? Now I actually bait the Eerie Impulse out. Yeah, I'm at -2, but I think I should still get the double knockout here. Oh, Instin's actually faster thanks to the speed boost. That's not good. This is the downside of running the slower Kyogre. At least we didn't Dynamax there. If we maxed there, it would have been a complete disaster. But since Kyogre is 92 speed and modest, like they're running a decently fast Incineroar, puts them in a much better position. But because we didn't Dynamax, I actually think it's still okay. Yeah. Like, I still get a decent amount of damage there, and my Zacian comes in for free. The interesting thing here is actually how terrain ended up being, because they ended up bringing Rillaboom out immediately, and so I think it doesn't expire after this turn. That's what I thought. Let's see. Everyone heals back a little bit. Oh, is it not over yet? Did it get reset? I think that was probably the case, but I just want to double check. I should have checked last turn, actually. But that actually works in my favor because it means now I can just pivot out the Kyogre out into Rillaboom immediately and not have to worry about setting up the terrain for them, essentially. 2 turns. Oh, it did get reset earlier. Okay. Oh, right, because Zapdos went for Max Lightning. Yeah, of course. So we'll pivot Kyogre out into Rillaboom now. There is a world in which I just attack here, right? Is there ever a world in which I actually just max Kyogre in this position? It's crazy because I'm at -3, right? Yeah, I don't like that. I think I should just switch. Switch and protect, I think, is fine. Because then I can just fake out the next turn and Sacred Sword. And basically what we're trying to win this game... we're trying to win the game with, like, super late game Dynamax Kyogre, essentially. That would have been so nice to have just gotten a double knockout there. So, Incin getting that speed boost, yeah, definitely was pretty sweet. They actually just go for a high horsepower there and then Flare Blitz double up into Zacian. Yeah, so that's where, like, I don't know, maxing Kyogre would have given us a free knockout there immediately, but I don't know if that's really that good for me. High horsepower plus Flare Blitz. My Rillaboom's slower here, so I can't do anything funky with, like, U-turn. If we can get a knockout here, though... It's the last one of grassy terrain, right? So, I think high horsepower plus Sacred Sword here is pretty valuable into Incin. Oh, actually, I don't know if I love that play. Yeah, I think they survive here. So, do you have a berry? Nope. Okay, high horsepower comes out. If we get the KO here... Oh, that doesn't even KO Zacian. That's huge. It's Shuka? Okay, I thought I missed for a second. That means they will get to reset the terrain, but... Maybe it's okay. Flare Blitz into Zacian. I could have gone for Fake Out there instead. Oh, they target Rillaboom. I think they faint from recoil? Oh, that's like 1 HP. Yeah, like, because if the Incin faints there, I think Kyogre should just win the game because he can just one-shot both of my opponent's Pokemon. Now this endgame is a little trickier. The thing is, they almost have to switch out their Rillaboom at the moment. I guess they could decide to stay in, but I'd be okay with that, right? So I would switch Rillaboom out if I were them. I can high horsepower or U-turn here. I'm fine just going for high horsepower and Behemoth Blade. These games have really been a doozy today. You could also pivot Incin out, I suppose. But if you pivot Incin out, it's a free switch into Kyogre, and Kyogre's looking mighty powerful. We were just so close. Like, if Incin just had taken 1 more HP of damage there, I think Kyogre wins the game. Yep, so there's the Rilla switch out. And there's Zacian finally coming out. Yep. Okay. So we'll get a big blade into it. I guess the question, what it boils down to is, like, does a double up from there and KO my Kyogre? Was a U-turn also worth it for me there? It was, I guess, because I could have missed high horsepower, but nah. U-turn would have given me a free switch into Kyogre, then I could just bring in Kyogre and protect it. Yeah, it was worth U-turning, I think, because it would allow me to bring Rillaboom back in for a fake out. And I think that's really valuable, because their Rillaboom probably doesn't have protect. No, I can't say that with 100% confidence. But you can see why I was hyper-focusing on KOing their Incineroar, right? Because we had gotten the knockout there, the game's just over, I think. I also don't know who's faster between the Zacians right now, but I think I essentially just go for a U-turn onto Rillaboom here and protect my Zacian. If we have the faster Zacian, we could also still be fine. Even with the slower one, I think it still might be okay. Basically, I sack Rillaboom here, get a free switch into Kyogre. A big question is what item your Rillaboom has here. Kyogre here has a good amount of bulk. It's 108 HP EV, 68 defense EVs. Zacian protects. Oh, we do have the faster Zacian. Okay, okay. That's interesting. Nicely done on their end, though. They just glide into the Rillaboom slot. Not much for me to do there, though, other than have maybe clicked Behemoth Blade with my Zacian. But knowing that my Zacian's faster now is a big deal, because it means that their Rillaboom has to target that slot this turn. Ah, it's so close. I think their Rillaboom probably... unless my Zacian survives a Grassy Glide right now. If we survive Glide, we just win the game, no? Okay. I could also go for the double protect. But I'm not confident Glide actually KOs me here. So we're gonna Geyser and Blade here. I think if I were to go for the double and not get it, it's just tricky because I don't know if Rillaboom, what the item on it is yet. And I guess there's a world in which they read into me going for the double and like double up on my Kyogre, and I actually lose the game immediately off of that. So I don't want to risk that. Although in this endgame, I actually think you can make a good argument for it. But what this boils down to is the item on Rillaboom, I think. So we'll see. Either way, this was really close. Yeah, I mean, I think the turn that I doubled up onto the Ensign, I did have Fake Out available. So I could have clicked Fake Out onto the Rillaboom and just Sacred Sword there. They actually ended up Flare Blitzing into the Rillaboom slot rather than the Zacian, right? So Kyogre's going to max. Let's see if they glide into Zacian. They glide into Kyogre. This is exactly what I was saying. So that does enough damage, but now I KO your Zacian. Yeah, that's exactly why I didn't want to go for the double protect, right? If I had gone for it, I actually literally lose the game immediately. So they essentially went for the read there, but now we should get the knockout onto Zacian. Beautiful, and Geyser should do a ton to Rillaboom. It actually could KO if they have no bulk, which is crazy to think about, given that it resists it. But there's Geyser. Okay, doesn't KO, but that's fine. That's all I need. Now either Pokemon will get the KO onto Rillaboom. So, yeah. Like in these end games, you know, it's sometimes you just make a really hard read and kind of read into your opponent's soul and what they're going to do. Other times you find a play that can cover for most things, right? So now I can just Hailstorm into Rilla and Behemoth Blade. And you can't knock out both Mons here. You probably just go for the knockout onto Kyogre, but they go for Zacian instead. Looks like they would have KO'd us there. Yeah, they would have KO'd us last turn if they had just targeted us. So that was super close. Actually, it was really close. How much did we heal? I actually don't remember off the top of my head. It's right around that, actually. So, yeah. Either way, though, I think, you know, we didn't have the most favorable rolls today, but we were still able to win, and I think it's a testament to how consistent this Zacian Kyogre team is, and Life Orb Kyogre is just an absolute Dynamax monster, as demonstrated today. So we have to be really patient. I think if I had Max Kyogre the turn that I got hit by Eerie Impulse, I would have just lost the game immediately. So it's funny because I keep talking about how Zapdos are either Life Orb or like Safety Goggles Eerie Impulse, but now we're actually seeing a decent amount of Life Orb plus Eerie Impulse. It's like the second time we run into it in the recent weeks. Wow, which I think is pretty interesting. But this team is absolutely incredible. So thanks so much as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoy. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all soon. All right, peace.